Hey, I hope you're having a great day. This is Elan, and I'm joined by Finn. Finn is the head coach for me at Coach Elan. He's been doing a lot of really powerful, impactful work with a lot of our clients. And today we want to cover the nervous system, regulating your nervous system, the 4F's, and a few different things within that. Finn, how are things with you today?
Yeah, really good. Excited to be able to bring this one out to the podcast because, yeah, it's been conversation that's been having a lot with a number of clients over the last little while. Being able to bring in nervous system regulation and attention to that, and as the ladies have been able to start understanding that more, like the effects that it's been having on the results and everything else has just been amazing. Like it's blown them away. So it's been like we're just chatting beforehand. It's not just about the exercise and the nutrition. It's like how you kind of work in that holistic package for yourself. Like that's what it all comes down to.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the way that most people think about it is like, okay, if I just train a few days a week, or maybe some people every day a week, if I restrict myself on slimmer world Weight Watchers, then I have to eventually, whatever, lose weight, tone up, whatever the goal is. But in reality, it's not as just simple as, move more and eat less. We're very complex being
Yeah.
on the nervous system, and your emotional health is something that
Mm.
110% will impact it. And I think by the end of today's podcast, um, a lot of people are going to have a much deeper understanding of why that is.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, and it's one of the biggest things that's understanding like when you go on a health journey with this stuff, like as you said, Elon, it's not just about like being on a calorie restriction and moving more, and that's going to be the thing that's going to change everything. If it was that easy, everyone would be walking around full of health and ripped. But it's how we deal with the other stressors of life and how we deal with challenge situations in our day to day. That because that in itself is going to dramatically impact how we are showing up then for ourselves. And I guess one of the things that's when I'm working with clients and like when we're like deep in the program and like the something pops up in life, it might be like someone in the family gets sick or some crazy things happen in work where they're under the massive deadlines and like they go through a period of really big stress, and then they might feel that they're getting a bit overwhelmed or they feel like they're falling off the program a little bit and stuff. It's like I'm always saying to them when we get on the call, it's like this is exactly my favorite time to be able to support someone because this is real life. Whereas if we were able to help you and coach you through these challenging times, through these stressful situations, and teach you how to start understanding your patterns, like the benefit that you get from that is next to none. Whereas if you're in like a short 8 week program, whereas you can follow that really easy, you can get the good results, but then a lot of times like something might happen in that short period. And then like when you're left back to your own devices, then something comes in and sideswipes you and it all falls down and you're back in your old patterns and you put the weight back on and stuff and then you're just kicking yourself. So it's one of the things that gets being able to learn these skills is so vital. It's such a huge one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was something that had been bugging me for a long time because there's so many people that had come to me at some point and they'd be like, yeah, I did really well for like 3 months. I lost, a stone and a half. But then like 6 months later, I gained it all back or more. Or, I was doing really well with my training and running. I was doing it for like, I don't know, a year. But then, like you said, something happened in their personal life. That really threw them off, and then they ended up not continuing with that. So I think when you really like have all those skills and you learn how to regulate, it's so much easier to just, be kinder to yourself and then be able to continue doing all of these positive things that allow you to feel your best.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I
it's massive.
think this isn't the only answer, but this is a huge part of the answer, what we're going to go through
Yeah.
today.
Oh, it's
Hence
a
why
massive component.
want to really prioritize it. So just to explain the nervous system, what is it? Like through my degree that I did and all the books that I've read and everything I've learned over the last like 11 years, 12 years, this is the easiest way to think about it that I found anyway. So just imagine that your body is like a car and your brain is the driver. So the nervous system is like all the wires and circuits in the car that help the driver control everything. So inside the nervous system, there are two special teams that help control how the car runs. there's the parasympathetic team and the sympathetic team. So they help control the accelerator and brake pedals, right? So your parasympathetic side of your nervous system helps you stay more relaxed, aka the brake pedals, or the sympathetic team can put you into fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode. Hence, that's what operates the accelerator, right? So, before we delve into like the 4F's and how they, would have a big impact on you, I think it'd be good to just go through like how different types of stress can, throw you into one of those modes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you mentioned like feeling overwhelmed is a big one, definitely.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's one of the things that's always really funny when talking to potential clients or talking to new clients. And once we start speaking into the stress side of things, a lot of ones it's like, oh, I'm not that stressed. Work isn't that stressful. But it's like what our idea of stress is isn't necessarily what stress is. Like, it's how your body responds in a physiological way is the stress. It doesn't matter where that stress actually comes from. So it mightn't be like you might be in a relaxed period at work, but there could be heaps of other stressors that are around you that you're just not aware of. And that's all continuously triggering your body to fall into that sympathetic state. And that's why your body can be in that continual that stress response with it. So it's by becoming aware and understanding that there's lots of different stressors that affect your body, and that affect our nervous system. It's really important. So we can kind of go back and forth over a couple of the different ones if you want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a good thing to point out with stress as well, like you said, you mightn't, you can be in a conscious or unconscious state, right? So a lot of MRI scans have been done, a lot of studies have been done on this that show about 5% of the time we're in a logical, proactive state where we're thinking clearly. And then 95% of the time we're essentially on autopilot or we're in a unconscious state. So if you might not feel like you're that stressed, but that also could be your body could also be in an unconscious state. You might be in one of these 4F's and you might not even realize it because at the end of the day, your body's trying to protect itself, So sometimes that can also be you trying to defend yourself by deflecting it and saying, no, I don't have that much stress because you've seen this with so many people that you work with as well. Like I'll literally have a consultation with someone at the start, they'll say, nah, like stress is fine. But then when we get into it, they're like, oh yeah, well actually, my mom, she has dementia. My grandfather's been, or my dad has been really struggling with Alzheimer's. My partner, you know, we're not really getting on that well, or there might have been like they got divorced maybe a year ago, or there's so many different things that pop up. So when you look into it deeper, sometimes there can be,
Mm.
but then sometimes there it mightn't be as severe as that. It can be other small things, just like my kids woke me up this morning at 5 a.m. So I got four
Yeah.
hours, 5 hours
Yeah.
sleep.
If you've got kids, you live in stress.
Yeah, and
But
you
yeah,
know all about
yeah.
that for sure.
So yeah, like again, to look at a couple of the different ones, it's like as you said, Elan, like it's like relationship stress. It can be like with your partner, with family members, with co-workers, with friendship groups. Like if there's something that's going on that is taking up a lot of brain space for yourself or is causing a bit of worry, that is going to be having a stress response. Like with work, if you've got like a deadline or if work is just really busy at the minute, or if you've got stepping into a new role, or like there's so many different areas, like you can get the idea of this. Like all of these things would be putting you in a stressful situation, and like these are all little micro stresses that might be present within your day to day. Like all are things that we can look at that would cause stress could be like financial stress. It could be looking at like looking at our health, like if there's something going on for ourselves that we're worried about, or something more going on with a family member that we're worried about. Do you want to reel off a couple of more?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like the thing is your body doesn't like really it doesn't matter where you get the stress from, your body is interpreting stress the same, right? So it doesn't matter if it's from, like all the deadlines that you have at work, if it's from a huge issue you've had in a relationship or someone in your family, this is all stress that's accumulating um within your body. it's called allostatic load, and then it's just at some point it might push you into one of these 4Fs, which I'll go through now. I'll go through the first one anyway. So the first F is the fight response, which a lot of people have probably heard, or it's also known as the eruptor mode. So if you're feeling very stressed, you might respond in this way. An eruptor focuses most of their attention outward. They may scream, yell, storm out, throw things, or slam doors. They may also attempt to dominate or control the conversation by overpowering others or the room with the volume or content of their speech. They may appear calm on the outside, but be seething on the inside, wavering on the verge of eruption. When you're around an eruptor, you may feel scared or as though you're walking on eggshells, waiting for the next outburst. So that's the eruptor or the fight response.
Hmm.
What's the next
Yeah,
one?
I'll delve into the flight response. So the flight response, also known as the distractor mode. So like when you feel yourself in that stress response, like your body automatically goes into the distractor. So you're focusing your attention on anything else apart from what is actually going on. Whatever the difficult situation is, like you're disassociating and bringing yourself away from that. And this is people who may like just dive into work whenever things are going on really busy because like you just you distract yourself at work, or you could like get this to-do lists, or you're obsessively using like technology, watching TV, like you're looking for ways to like distract yourself, to numb out, to avoid actually dealing with what is actually going on. Like this can be like people who are like you feel like they're being that super mom, super boss, super partner, and like they're just keeping everything going, but really like they're just emotionally absent and not fully present within themselves because they're not actually dealing with what's going on. So again, like that can be like real high performers can get caught in with that. And a lot of times if you're with someone who is in that distractor mode, you might feel that they're disconnected or you feel a bit ignored from them because they're just so focused on the other things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, the as we're going through these, just take note. It doesn't have to be a written note, but like if you're listening to this in the car or you're out for a walk or maybe you're in work, just take note of like what you relate to with these, because usually there'll be at least one that we can all relate to, or there might be several different ones that you can relate to from different experiences or situations that you've had at some point. The next one is the freeze response, also known as a detacher. So a detacher focuses most of their attention inward. They're not actively erupting or distracting. Instead, they don't appear to be feeling or be connected to much of anything. Though the response can be difficult to identify, since a detacher is often physically present and can even appear to be actively engaged. They're emotionally empty, distant, or aloof. When you're around a detacher, you may feel distant or shut out, no matter what you do or say, and may also feel consistently rejected when you attempt to emotionally connect with them.
Mm.
And then there's just one more.
Yep, so the last one is the pleaser mode or the fawn response. And again, like with the pleaser mode, like that's whenever you you try to focus most of their attention trying to do other things to make other people happy, where they're always anticipating something someone might want. They're always attempting to try to meet other people's needs, trying to always show up for other people and just go above and beyond to help other people and make sure everybody's feeling okay, like rather than avoiding that conflict. So like a lot of times like that people pleaser, like they don't know or say what they want, and like they remain really differential to other people's opinions. And again, like they might feel pretty overwhelmed, emotionally stuffed and or suffocated, and just resentful because they're doing things for everybody else without doing things for themselves.
Yeah, so hopefully if you're listening to this, there's at least one of those that you can relate to. For me personally, I for years thought when I first started learning about this stuff that, oh, I'm definitely the fighter for sure, right? But then I actually realized, oh shit, that's actually my ego talking. That's not the authentic version of me. And then the more that I looked into it, I realized I'm actually more of the distractor or the detacher, right?
Mm,
They're just they're ways that I've coped with stress from a young age. You know, the more therapy that I did, the more journaling, the more I kind of just went back into the memory vault and looked back into it. I was like, oh yeah, like I'd always just, kind of be very introverted and kind of shut down if there's anything like super stressful, whatever it was. So I thought that was really interesting. Um, and it's good now as well. Like it's it's had a huge positive impact on my life now because I know that like if I'm with my girlfriend and I'm feeling stressed, I can like just take a second to be like, okay, I'm probably going to either detach or distract right now. But as most people probably realize, if you're in a relationship with someone, you can't detach because things are not going to go well,
Yeah.
So it's been a really good thing for me that I can bring myself back to a conscious present state, from one of those.
Yeah, it's such a big one. I know for myself, like definitely, my default was like the people pleaser, like that pleaser mode. That fun response was massive, massive, massive. Like it's the one that I've had to do the most work on, and then the other one is the second one, the distractor mode as well. So like they're the two big ones. So again, it's just becoming really aware of what my patterns are for them. What are the ways I want to distract myself? What are the ways I try to like keep myself super busy and going above and beyond when I'm feeling it? And as well as with the pleaser, it's like where am I trying to do all of thing, do everything for everybody else, but then I neglect myself. Because like continuously for years I would always do that and then I'd end up burning myself out because I'd have nothing left in the tank. But then I was always beating myself up. I was like, oh, why do I not have the energy to do X, Y, or Z? And it was really because I wasn't looking at a lot of this stuff for myself. And the
Mhm.
more I got worked on myself, the more I became super aware of all of this and brought in healthier coping mechanisms to deal with it all. Like it's made such a game changer.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say you got burnt out from that because I also got burnt out from being in the distractor mode because when I was working in the gym, I just like try and work as much as possible. Like it wasn't a good week unless I was working at least 70 hours. Try to get up at 5 or 6 a.m. Because that's like, the hard thing to do. And then,
Yeah.
okay, well, like I'm not successful or I'm not doing well unless I leave the gym at 10 p.m. And then try and train 3 or 4 times a week and then go to a festival or a nightclub at least once or twice in that same week as well. And then, just distracting with all these different things. And then obviously in the end, just getting completely burnt out
Yeah.
mentally, physically, and then be like, I wonder why am I so depressed right now? It's like, oh yeah, because I'm distracting with all these different things.
Mm.
So it's crazy. Like I know
Yeah.
I've had it just a complete what feels like it feels like there's a past life and a current life. There's
Yeah.
just like awakening at some point of like, oh shit, like I can see all those patterns there now. They're exposed, so I can work on them now so I don't have to distract as much, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a huge one, and like again, it's one of them ones. It's I know for myself, like I'm deep in like the parent journey with 4 young kids at the moment. Is like I do a lot of like quite a few of my clients have kids from all different like from kind of like young enough to like early teens, late teens, and older, and like seeing so what some of the patterns are coming up with them because again, it's like I think. When you've got all of these other little people who are relying on you so much, there's so many other stressors that just continuously pop up. So it's like instead of using that as a something to be resentful for, is using that as a way to actually get excited for because you're gonna see your triggers popping up continuously and you're gonna see what your go-to pattern of response is continuously. So that's gonna help you be able to start looking as like, right, this is me watching myself do this. How can I start becoming more aware of that? And then what I can start bringing in to support myself better to start breaking them patterns, which is going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. So at this point, after going through them, um, if you do have your phone or a journal or something, just want you to write down, which of the 4 F's can you relate to? Um, or if you're walking along or whatever, just think of which kind of sounds like you at
Yeah.
maybe some points. And this is going to be a really powerful, like potentially first step, or this might be the 50th step on your journey, but it doesn't really matter where you are in your journey. This is always a really good thing to come back to, especially if you've never delved into this before.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so I think something really good to mention is how, like we talked in one of the last podcasts about self-sabotage, and the reality of self-sabotage is that nobody wants to sabotage their own progress. That doesn't logically make any sense. But one of the reasons why we do it is to keep ourselves alive, essentially, at the most basic level, right? It's about self-preservation. So when we go into one of these 4F's, let's say someone at work was shouting at you, or you're in a really stressful situation, like you're in your car and someone's road rage and, beeping the horn. It doesn't really matter what the situation is, right? Let's say you're in some situation and now that's caused one of the 4F responses. Let's say it's the shutdown response, right? So if you're in that shutdown response, you're now in that autopilot, or, the self, you're in an unconscious state. And at that very moment, your body is trying to protect itself because that's the coping mechanism that you've learned at some point in your life. That, okay, if I shut down, this is what's going to keep me alive. And that's at the end of the day, the whole goal of your brain, your nervous system is to keep you alive. And so that's where a lot of the self-sabotage can come in. Like, because if you're in constantly in a shutdown mode, you're not going to be able to, you're in a reactive state, right? So it's only when you learn how to regulate your nervous system to de-stress, get out of that shutdown state, um, that you can get back into a conscious, proactive state. And then it's much easier to work on your goals.
Mm.
Right. So this has been kind of a key mindset shift for me, and something that I've been sharing with a lot of people that I work with, and I know Finn, you have been too. It's like, okay, what do we need to do to allow you to get out of one of those 4F's into a place where you feel relaxed, you can breathe, and then it's so much easier to focus on your goals when you're not pulling your hair out from stress, or your body's in that whatever shutdown mode or fight response or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think,
it's such a big one. Like, and as you said, it's like with that self-sabotage, it's like you're not going to really self-sabotage when you're feeling $1 million. Like it always comes in. It's like it's attached to that dysregulated state where you're in one of them different modes, like one of them fight, flight, freeze response modes, and like and that's where you're like going into them patterns. Like you fall into a pattern, then you reach for another pattern that's going to just help soothe that. It's like and like again, like one of the biggest ones, probably a lot of people like listening to this is like with their when you look at nutrition is like that emotional eating side of things. It's like emotional eating comes from everything that we're speaking into here. So much of that is connected to what's going on through here. Because with that self-sabotage, that emotional eating, all of that is coming from a dysregulated nervous state response. And so it's like what we if you can look at see them patterns and then look at what we can start bringing in to support ourselves so we're not falling into them old patterns as much. That's going to help really start getting a grip of that and starting to change how we show up.
yeah, absolutely. So on the emotional eating side, the emotional eating is the symptom rather than the cause. So whatever stress you had going on earlier in the day, or maybe it's the past few weeks, that has now triggered you to go into, I'd say it's fair to say, distractor mode, because if you're emotionally eating, the food is helping you to stay distracted from whatever the stressful thing was. But then obviously the guilt comes after the emotional
Yeah.
eating and the shame, and then you feel bad about that, and then that causes more stress, and the
The loop continues.
cycle continues. And then yeah, so it's really good to be able to identify whatever that is.
Yeah.
Um, but like I think the misconception I had for a long time was that, like, you know, like you'd only self-sabotage uh if you didn't like yourself, or you're your own worst enemy. But it's not that simple. It's like your body is literally trying to protect itself, so you're actually doing a very kind thing for yourself when you go into one of those 4F states,
Mm.
because you're trying to keep
Yeah, it's
yourself
a
alive.
survival state. It's a survival. It's what you have figured out for yourself to survive, to find that comfort within yourself. Like we're not going to them states to do ourselves like harm intentionally. It's going into them states as a survival mechanism. And like that's where so much of that is ingrained within it. That's where so much of them patterns are continuously ingrained with us because like we're doing these as a survival mechanism. We are doing these to keep ourselves safe for that rather than dealing with the trauma, rather than dealing with the mess, the stress, whatever that might be. It's like I don't feel safe in my body to do that, so I'm going to go to one of these other states to do what I need to do to get through what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it comes from what you've learned in childhood. So it could be from 0 to 6 years old, or believe it or not, it could be something that's prenatal as well. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
evidence that backs this up as well. There's a really good book called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wallen. And there's a lot of other good books on the topic as well, but that's just one I've read recently.
Mm. Yeah.
And there's literally loads of studies that have been done that show when your mother was carrying you, if she experienced a really stressful time within whatever that time frame was, if it was 8 months or whatever, that can have a huge impact then on you and how you manage or deal with stress. So it could be prenatal, it could be from something that happened maybe when you're 3 or 5, let's say your parents they broke up, they argued a lot, you had someone that was close to you that passed away, whatever the traumatic thing was, those are all things that could potentially impact how you right now as an adult, if you're 40, 55, 65, doesn't matter what age you are, you can be reacting the exact same way now that you did when you were 4 years old, because that's
Mm.
just the coping mechanism that you've learned.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the thing is with it, like the more we do this work on ourselves, the more we start bringing more of this awareness of what it is that we're doing for ourselves. Like it's like there's nothing wrong with having these patterns, but it's looking as like now I'm at a point where I have a new level of awareness. So let's look at what we can do to start creating some change, to start bringing more safety and to start taking a bit more control of it. Like and it's like we can't change what's happened in the past. We can only take charge of what's happening in our present now. So it's looking at like this is like a big new level of awareness that you're gaining on yourself. So like a lot of us could be like, oh shit, I can't believe that. Whereas like actually this is such a big gift. This is you getting to understand why you do what you do. This is you starting to get to understand some of these patterns more so you can start seeing them as they're playing out for you. You can start seeing them as they have happened to you. And then it's like it's giving you more of awareness of that. So then it's giving you more power to start making healthier changes to support yourself and to start acting in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the empowerment you get from this is like the most important thing because when you really delve into this at a deep level for you personally, then this is gonna make it so much easier for you when you inevitably do have something stressful that happens. And then you can be like, okay, this isn't going to throw me off from my goal of running 5K, or this isn't going to throw me off from getting down to that size 12 that I've always wanted to get down to, or whatever the goal is for you. So now that we have all that covered, it'd be good to switch into, all right, what do I actually need to do now?
Yeah.
Help me, manage the stress to feel regulated and to feel as good as I can. And obviously, there's loads of different things you can do. So, we're going to go through them. And the first easiest thing to do is literally take a deep breath. So, breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. Really long, slow breath in, slow breath out. Because if you're breathing slowly in, slowly out, that means that you're going to be more in the present moment, which means that you're more in a relaxed state. You're in your parasympathetic, the relaxed state of your nervous system. So that's the simplest place to start. Literally just breathe in, breathe out. Finn, what are some of your favorite ways to regulate your nervous system when the kids are running wild?
Yeah, so like I think the way I look at it, like I have it broken into a few different aspects of it. Um, so I like to look at it as like what is the quick, easy, simple little things that I can do in the moment. And like trying to have a few of them that I can go to straight away because Like a lot of times when we think of these different aspects of self-care that's going to regulate the nervous system, it's like, oh, it's like going for a big walk or sitting down doing like a 15-minute meditation or doing a workout or something like that. Like when you're in the thick of it, when it's dinner time and you're trying to like make dinner, stuff is kicking off in the background, everything's going on. It's like you can't just go like, here, pause. I'm just going to sit outside for 15 minutes and breathe to try to regulate my nervous system because I'm feeling myself starting to fall into some response. Like it's not going to happen. So it's looking at like what are some of the things, the different tools that I use to just bring into that moment. And like the first one is just have that check-in, have that awareness. Is like you feel yourself starting to get a bit agitated. You feel yourself starting to get stressed, it's starting to build up, and just allow yourself just to take a moment to check in, to just pause and just acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. And then asking yourself, like, right, what do I need right now? What would help me right now? And like that might be then, as Elon said, is like just taking that nice slow breath. For me, breath is such a powerful tool. So like I can go through a couple of different breathing exercises you can do, but the first one is like as Elon said, is just super simple. Breathe in for the count of 4 through your nose, breathe out for the count of 6 to 8 out of your mouth. And as you're going for that deeper, slower, longer exhale, that's where you're dropping more into that parasympathetic. So this is something that you can do when you're in traffic. It's something that you can do in the queue in the shops. It's something that you can do when you're making dinner. Something you can do when you're in the middle of a meeting. No matter where you are, you can do these here things, and no one around you knows what it is that you're doing. So just going through that 4-6 or 4-8 breath is a really simple one. And like another one that a lot of people like, and I use myself a lot, is just going through a simple box breath, where it's just breathing in for the count of 4, hold that breath in for 4, breathe out for 4, hold that breath out for 4, and just going around that little box and go again for maybe like 4, 6, 8 rounds of that. Takes a couple of minutes just to slow things down. So you're counting your breath, you're going for them little holds, and that's just something again that's just going to help bring things down and settle things down for yourself. A couple of other simple ones to just like in the moment that you can do. It can be the matter of like if you are like again, if it's in the kitchen or if it's somewhere where there's a window or something like that, you're in the office and you feel yourself getting a bit worked up. It can just be taking a moment to pause and just look at nature. Just it can be simple as things of just looking outside and just watch like a leaf blowing in the wind, or see if there's an animals moving outside, or just taking that little bit of moment to like step out of where it is in your world right now and just look outside of yourself, look at nature and just connect to nature and just use that as something to just bring yourself into that peace of calm. Like there are a couple of like the super quick and simple ones, and then all our bigger things would be then that's when we're going into some things that takes a little bit longer. Like if you want to go into some of them yourself, Elon.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it goes without saying, making sure that you get enough sleep every night. I mean, like, just think back to the last time you had 4 or 5 hours sleep. Like, were you in an amazing mood and you felt ready to take on the day and do a workout? Like, most likely not. Like, it's the exact opposite. It's so getting at least 7 hours sleep, ideally 7.5, 8 hours. Or if you have a smartwatch, making sure that you're getting up to about an hour and a half of deep sleep per night. Because if usually an hour and a half of deep sleep will fully recharge you. So it comes out to about 7.5, 8 hours of total sleep. Um, a really big one that maybe a lot of people don't pay much attention to is detoxing from social media. So I really limit my time on Instagram, especially. I don't use TikTok anymore, don't use Facebook. Um, I'll use LinkedIn. Um, and really try to keep my time on Instagram to an absolute minimum, because I'll either end up in two states. Either on Instagram, I'll end up in a scroll hole for an hour and be like, oh my God, I'm just after wasting an hour of my life that I can never get back. Or I'll see someone posting about something, some big massive success, someone with their Lamborghini, whatever it is, and then I go away from it feeling miserable and compare myself to them, and in a very negative state of mind. So I think detoxing from social media is something that's very, very powerful, and that can remove a lot of stress from people's lives as well. I mean, we've got enough stress going on. We don't need to be like comparing ourselves to
Yeah.
Joe who, just got his new car or whatever, so very simple. Um, Other ones, of course, some people think that, oh, like if I'm really stressed, then why would adding in some strength training or resistance training or running or any type of training, how could that help me? But in reality, like if you've trained a bit, you'll know the feeling that you get. Like even if you do a 30-minute strength workout, you do 20 minutes of stretching, you're doing some type of movement for your body. Like there's never really ever going to be a time where you finish the workout feeling worse.
Mm.
Like you're
Yeah.
always have more energy or have some type of feeling of accomplishment or be happy that you did it. There's that saying of like the only workout you regret is the one that you didn't do. And it's so true. So they're all like really powerful things that can help regulate your nervous system as well. Of course, hiking. I mean, this is the main reason why I set up, or one of the main reasons why I set up the community days for everyone that we work with. Go for a hike for 2 hours, somewhere in the mountains, through a forest, by a waterfall. It's very, very hard to finish a hike somewhere like that in nature and not feel uplifted or in a good mood afterwards. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of positive things that you can do to regulate your system.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, and like have a play around, like, and find the ones that work really well for you. Have like I always recommend to people, it's like start connecting with them when you're in a good space, rather than waiting for you to be in a stress state and then attaching to something that might help or something that you're not that familiar with. Whereas if you've never done like breathing exercise and then like you feel like yourself in a stress response, it's going to be really hard to try to do a breathing exercise then. Whereas when you're feeling good, if you can be working on your breathing and start doing some meditation or be more intentional with has setting boundaries with social media, doing all of them other things that we've been speaking into. If you're already doing them continuously for yourself, it's going to be so much easier then to connect with them when you really need them in that stress response. And I guess one of the funny things is like when you look at that distractor side of it, that stress response, like so much of us, like a lot of people would fall into that, and like a lot of like it's just their world is set up to really feed that one with Netflix, with social media, with all of these things. And so how often is like when you're feeling stressed, you feel like your self-care is, I might have a couple of glasses of wine, stay up and watch a movie, and then you stay up too late watching a movie, and then you end up going down a scroll hole, and like you're like instead of getting your 7 hours of sleep, you've got like 5 hours of sleep. Instead of having like a glass of wine, you had two or three glasses of wine. So you've had too much alcohol, like you've stayed up super late, you were on screens till really long. So like something that you were doing for self-care actually caused way more stress in your body. So then the next day you're going to actually feel worse for it. So it's like just checking what some of them patterns are for yourself as well. And like it's just looking, it's like, right, where can I do self-care that's actually going to help me? It's actually going to help support my nervous system like today and tomorrow in the long run. And like looking at breaking some of them patterns down as well.
Yeah, that's a really common pattern that's popped up. A lot of people have said to me, like, when I finish a long day at work and it's 8 or 9 o'clock, I'm sitting on the couch. I feel like I deserve a couple of glasses of whatever, rosé or red wine or whatever it is that they prefer. And the thing is, you deserve some self-care and something to help regulate your nervous system. The alcohol is not the best way to do it
Mm,
because the alcohol is going to be something that's, like you said, going to throw you into a more stressed state because obviously, and for anyone that doesn't know, alcohol absolutely ruins your sleep, ruins it. Like,
yeah.
you look at if you have a Fitbit or anything, look at your stats, your HRV, your heart rate, whatever, from a night where you had a normal sleep, no alcohol versus alcohol, and it absolutely destroys it. Or even just tune into your own energy. Like it's so different. So, you definitely deserve self-care in the evening, but the alcohol is not a good way to do it. Any of the things that we mentioned about the breath work, it could be lighting some candles, maybe some aromatherapy like blueberry spray. I have a blueberry spray, it smells amazing. Have a hot bath with some Epsom salts. Whatever your self-care routine is. Maybe you don't even have a self-care routine. Maybe it's a good time now to like write down 3 things that you can do this evening. So everyone deserves to have that relaxed time, but
Mm.
there's going to be certain ways like alcohol that are not helping you to feel better. So it's can be difficult to get out of that state though, because if you're trapped in that cycle, alcohol is maybe the only thing that you've seen that
Yeah.
has kind of helpful, but in the long run, it's actually not.
Like, and
Um,
that's it. Like, and no matter where it is, no matter where you are listening to this, and like as you're going through it, it's just knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect tomorrow. It's like the whole idea, the whole intention of this is to start looking at like where we can bring a bit more conscious awareness to the things we do and looking at where we can maybe start making some small little tweaks and changes to our day to day and how we're showing up for ourselves with it. And like as we do that continuously, as we continue to like rinse and repeat them changes, like over time, like that's where we can have a massive, massive impact. Like, and I think that's one of the big things to remember because even like self-care can be stressful. It's like, I have to do this, I need to do this, I should do that. Like, check the wordage, check how the language that you use. It's like, if you have to do this, if you need to do this, if you feel guilty for not doing X, Y, or Z and beating yourself for all of that is causing more stress to it. It's like, whereas the other actual fact of it is like, these are all things that you get to do. These are things that you get to do to nourish yourself, to support yourself. So it's looking as like, right, where can I look at changing the way I'm looking at these things as like rather than more things to try to add to the list and try to fit into it. It's like, right, this is actually something that I get to do to nourish myself that is going to maybe help me deal with some of the stuff that's going on in my day-to-day life and navigate that with a little bit more ease than what it was last week.
Yeah, for sure. I've changed a lot of those words as well. Like now that I think of it as like, okay, I don't have to do anything, but I want to do, I want to go on this hike, or I have the opportunity now to take half an hour to have a quick nap, or, so it can seem like semantics sometimes, but honestly, if you change some of the wording around it, it does make a big difference too. Some words have more of a negative feel or connotation to them, and other obviously more positive. Um, Something as well that I've noticed a huge improvement from in terms of my stress levels is in January of this year, I adopted a cat with my girlfriend. So honestly, my stress levels are so much lower every day now because Luna is there, so if I give her a brush or if I'm playing with her or if I'm feeding her or if she's just like sitting there, give me evil eyes in the corner like most cats do. It's like when she's in the room, my stress levels are much lower. And I noticed that when I was younger as well. Like we always had different dogs. Like my parents have a French Mastiff now, and we had some other Mastiffs when I was younger. And it's like anytime I was, with Ovi or Zeus or, with Luna now, I'd always feel much better. But
Mm,
I didn't really connect the dots until maybe a couple of years ago, the more that I looked into this. And so you
yeah.
actually co-regulate with animals. Like just think, how do you feel when you're, if you this is if you like cats or dogs. Some
Yeah.
people don't, which is fair enough. But just check in with yourself. Like, how do you feel when you're with, your pet or with someone's cat or dog? Like it's most of the time it's a lot better. Uh,
Mm,
and as well, you can also co-regulate, if you have a partner, you can co-regulate in a very simple way. So if you put your hand on their heart and they put their hand on your heart, and you just really tune into each other's breathing, if you're both relaxed and you're doing some meditative style breathing, like you mentioned, you can basically co-regulate to bring your stress levels down. Because if the
mm,
other person is very relaxed, then you're tuning into their energy and their breathing.
yeah.
Uh, and that for some people might seem a bit like woo-woo, but it's really not. Like there's so much evidence. If you think about it logically, or if you have any knowledge when it comes to physiology and stuff like that, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is experience it once and you'd be like, oh yeah, this actually does feel good.
Yeah. Nah, it's such a big one. But yeah, like I think like it's one of them things. Like all of this is such an important topic to delve into. Like, and I feel like gave a really good, a really good basic cover of a lot of this. So like anyone that's listening to it, I'm sure like you, I recommend even go back and give it a second listen, take a few notes and stuff like that. But like the biggest thing with it is like it's not just consuming this stuff and said, oh, that was all pretty cool. It's like what are the things that you can actually implement from it? What are the teachings, the learnings that you can bring in? Like even if it's just one or two small simple things that you can bring forward for yourself over the next few days, look at what you can do with that. Like and like not just having more information that we just listen to more information and then we forget about it a few days later. It's like what are the things, what are the couple of things that you want to bring forward for yourself into your day to day from this? I think it's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you've made it this far, like definitely want you to do a little bit of homework. So I want you to write down like what are one of your F responses. Um, and then maybe write down a specific experience that you had in the past where you can see, let's say if you were in that detacher mode, whichever F it was, and then also write down from the list of things we mentioned, what's one positive thing you can do today to bring your stress levels down. And then at least you'll have a little game plan from everything that we've talked about, and you can be proactive about it and not let this be just another YouTube video or podcast that you listen to, uh, that you forget about in a day or two, but something that actually is
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that's all we really need to go over for today. If you haven't listened to it already, we did another podcast on self-sabotage that we've got a lot of really good feedback on. We did another one about ditching the scales, inner child, and a lot of these are interconnected. So check those out if you haven't already. And yeah, if you'd like any help with anything, or maybe you want to share something that you learned from today, maybe your biggest takeaway, whatever it was, you can message either of us. I'm Coach Elan on Instagram. Finn, you're the Grounded Masculine on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Perfect. Or you can just email us. For me, it's Elan@coachelan.com, and Finn is Finn@coachelan.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So, anything else you'd like to go over before we finish up?
No, I think that's perfect, man.
All right, nice one. Good stuff. Well, really looking forward to the next one and hope you have a good day.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.